following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, and that rockin' theme means it's time once again for the Option Block, your bi-weekly source of options wit, wisdom, and once in a great while, hilarity. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com as well as the Options Insider Radio Network. And I am joined today on the old all-star panel today, starting off with the man from the pit, the greasy meatball himself, good old Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mark, welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
You missed me. I was pining for you guys, so I cleared my schedule to come hang out today.
It's very easy to pine for the Option Block when you're not on it for a while. Exactly. It's just a fun show. It's
this is like my weekly cup of buttermilk that I drink every Thursday.
Yes. The Option Block is comfort food for the.
Yeah, it is. It's like a meatball hoagie for the soul.
I've always heard those comments. Yes, we're very good for the soul here on the Option Block. So we're glad we can oblige, sir. Glad to have you back. Also joining us, another returning regular coming down from the old mountains of St. Charles, Illinois. Good old Uncle Mike Tusaw from Know Your Options Inc., soon to be from somewhere else that is yet to be stated. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always excited to be here with the boys. I never really thought of it as my weekly cup of buttermilk, but nonetheless, it's always great to be back. And I haven't got to work with the greasy meatball sandwich in a while. Seabass, it's great to be with you.
Well, Tusaw, I mean, for a guy like you, isn't it a daily cup of buttermilk? Wasn't that one of your staples back in your football days? You wake up, a big glass of raw eggs and a big glass of buttermilk to follow it up?
That's about right, minus the buttermilk.
And then you'd go and work out, and when you were done, your innards would have turned into an omelet.
Well, pretty much. Okay. Then I'd run up the stairs of some building and then jump up and down at the top of it.
Yep. Then you throw it. Then you'd eat a whole piece of ham and some cheese, and you would have created yourself a stomach omelet.
And then after that, I ate breakfast.
Exactly.
Someone's been watching Rocky a few too many times, I think. Running up and down the old stairs in Philadelphia there. Oh.
It's not possible to watch Rocky too many times.
That's true.
Agreed.
All right, and last but certainly not least, holding down the Options Express hot seat, he is Sean Fitzgerald, the major domo over there on the trading desk. Sean, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here Mondays and sometimes Thursdays.
And the occasional Thursday as well. Is this show comfort food for you as well, or is it perhaps your hot toddy to put you asleep at night?
Not quite the buttermilk. I'd say it's more of like a Red Bull drink. A Red Bull and vodka.
Red Bull. I was thinking you're going to go for a soothing aperitif, but whatever floats your boat. Whatever the option block does for you.
I'm a little disappointed he didn't go with what he really meant was, it's like my weekly pound of cocaine. That's what he was saying.
I got enough of that on the trade desk today. We had a very, very volatile day on the desk, I'd call it.
All right, that's a good one to get to then. So with that and with the assorted effects of the option block laid out, we're going to dive right into the trading block.
The trading block.
All right, and welcome to the trading block. And it was, as Sean alluded to, a weird one on the old street today. If you look just at the major indices, not a whole heck of a lot going on. Most of the major indices up about 0.3%, with the exception of the NASDAQ leading the charge again, up nearly 1% to 29.65. And the good old VIX cash selling off to the downside, down nearly half a point to 15.72. But Sean, as you alluded to, like we said, that kind of net move belies some of the activity that was going on today. It was a more active day than the numbers make it out. Sounds like you had a pretty active day on the desk.
Yeah, we had a very active day. Like I said, the market really never really up more than 50 points. I think maybe it was down 30 at the open, and then quickly ran up. So, I mean, the swings really were there, but not in mass quantity moves. I just think it was a very busy day today with all the earnings this morning and the earnings coming out as we speak right now.
Yeah, speaking of earnings, there are quite a few going on after the bell right now. Of course, probably one of the biggest is Google. They closed around 593 even, trading right now in the after hours, about 613, up about 20 handles right now. So aggressive upside on Google right now. Let's take a quick look. See how the weekly straddle players fared.
It was trading $32 at the close, in between $31 and $32 all day.
Oh.
Google was I basically traded this all day. It was so fun. You could, if one really had the wherewithal and the time, one could have sat there and just bid for time spreads back and forth all day and flipped them for between $30 and $40. I saw. Because one of the interesting things was that when they listed the new weekly option, for the first hour, it was severely underpriced relative to the regular July and the August contract. So that was the one you were looking to buy all day. Meanwhile, the regular July was fluctuating around back between $31 and $33. Whereas the July, the new weekly July, hung around between $34 and $34.50 all day. So when you have a stable contract month against one that's whipping around back and forth, it really sets you up in a position to be able to flip time spreads back and forth. So you could basically, like clockwork, pay $1.30 for the 5.95 call spread, and then sell it at $1.75, and so on and so on. So, Google's made a nice $20 move after the bell, but really, the real winning straddle was not the one bought today. It was the one bought yesterday when Google closed 580. And I was looking and said, $32 for that 580 straddle seems cheap. By the time Google's already up $12 today, I was saying to myself, okay, part of that move is already now cooked in if it goes up. So the straddle, no longer that cheap, and looks like it's not going to pay out. And in fact, I was just trading it small. I'm open on one 5.95 put spread for $1.40. That one looks like it's going to pay out handsomely if Google stays here at 610. So, one key thing is just because there's earnings doesn't mean you have to take a position into earnings. You can trade around earnings and actually probably make a lot more money doing that than trying to hold some position into earnings. Wouldn't you agree, Captain Tusaw?
Well, typically what I'm doing, I hate earnings personally, just because of the fact it's just a major headache with what I'm doing. And it's one that I have to put on extra hedges or figure out some way to manage risk going into earnings. And I agree, just looking at Apple as often as I do, Apple's had a nice little run. Like today, Apple's up almost $9. And if you get enough of those, then it comes to the point where if you're trying to play a rally into the earnings, they're absolutely right. If you get out before the announcement, it's a lot more fun to be profitable and flat after market than thinking, holy crap, what's this thing going to do? What am I going to do? How do I deal with this in the aftermarket when I have absolutely no control over my position because options don't trade after hours?
Speaking of fun, you mentioned Apple, Uncle Mike. Well, we have the stealth Apple, good old Chipotle, also coming out after the bell today, and they are the flip side of the coin from Google. You don't get to say this very often with Chipotle, but they're down after earnings. They, you know, I
want to know why Chipotle's down today, Mark?
Is that because you didn't have a chance to get your lunch burrito in on time?
Lunch at Qdoba Mexican Grill instead.
You know, they are starting to pop up with more frequency. Just looking around Chicago, the anecdotal evidence we have around here in the Loop, there's quite a few Qdobas to match the Chipotles now.
Better than Chipotle. Anybody who thinks Chipotle is better than Qdoba, that's like saying that a Yugo is better than a Jaguar.
Disagree with you on that one.
You have no idea what you're talking if you like Chipotle better than Qdoba.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Chipotle does put out a better burrito than Qdoba.
Next thing you're going to say is Taco Bell is better than both of them.
But I'll say this though, Chipotle is not my all-time favorite burrito place. There's plenty. You gotta get, if you want to get a good burrito, you gotta get something local. And national chains are not. It's better, but it's not as good as a good authentic Mexican local place because it's one of those ones where you're not able to scale a good burrito. It's like in the financial industry, a lot of big financial firms try to scale trust. You're not able to do that with burritos. You're not able to scale a good quality authentic burrito. So I think Chipotle is better than Qdoba, but with that, I'll take a local authentic burrito over either of them, hands down, any day.
Any of the ones in the city are going to be better, mostly because they don't have to be as clean, follow health laws, so they can just kind of...
Those rat droppings add that little hint of flavor that just goes a long way.
Yes, that's the way it should be.
A burrito always tastes better when it's been cooked on an unclean skillet surface.
The flavor of the burritos in years past really adds to the flavor as well. I'm a big fan of Chipotle. I've had the Qdoba salads and things. I never had a burrito to compare them directly, so perhaps I should go do that. Then I could compare one-on-one who has the superior steak burrito, and then we can go from there.
Maybe we'll do that at the live one.
The next live show.
Challenge.
There we go. The burrito face-off.
We'll bring in a Taco Bell 7-layer burrito.
Oh, God.
We'll bring in a Qdoba queso burrito and whatever is the best at Chipotle.
You can't put Taco Bell in the equation. You have to at least admit Chipotle and Qdoba are a notch above them.
It's 99 cents. Might as well throw it in.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't hurt at that point. And that could be the layer.
I have to be awfully hungry to eat a Taco Bell burrito.
That could be the layer of topping on top of these Chipotle burritos.
About Yum Brands,
Well, as we were alluding to, Chipotle taking a bit of a hit today. It was down 30 for a while there in the after hours. Now down about 20, closed at 403, nearly 404, trading 383 in the after hours. So I haven't had a chance to look at the numbers, but I'm guessing that the encroachment of Qdoba did play a factor in that. I mean, the story of Chipotle has always been, wow, unlimited growth potential. They could expand in so many cities. Well, they've started, at least in major metropolitan areas like Chicago, to really start hitting a saturation point. And now we have Qdoba encroaching on across the street and things like that. I imagine that has to be weighing on them, as well as their high cost of food, because they do tend to buy the organic and all the other stuff that Taco Bell and other outlets tend to eschew. So that seems
locally.
Yes, yeah. That seems to be weighing on them as well. So
Taco Bell meat is at least 92% meat. Remember?
Yeah, that's right. They were sued for that, weren't they, recently?
No, they sued.
Oh, you're right. It was backwards.
Sued and took out a full-page ad.
And the last big tech day, except for Chipotle, obviously, today, we had Microsoft coming out after the bell, and we talked and joked in many shows in the past how Microsoft has been the vol sale of the century. Every earnings like clockwork, a resounding meh, and you could just sell that straddle and pretty much go home. And today, looks like they're putting up a little bit better numbers. They closed at $30 and almost 70 cents, trading about 50 cents north in the after hours. So this straddle went out about $1.05, $1.08. So looks like, again, unless there's some large move in the after hours, another resounding meh from Microsoft.
The 3031 strangle went out 50 cents. So if Microsoft's not breaking 31.5, this one's a loser.
Yeah, the straddles have been great sales. Strangles even better sales, just because that's almost a guaranteed winner. How many times, even a simple one-handle strangle like that, how many times has Microsoft broken through that? Well, I think last earnings was one of the few times they actually had a bit of a move. But aside from that, Microsoft not really lighting up the tape. Sean, anything else catching your eye in today's activity?
Well, I just noticed IRCRG just came out with earnings. Down about $3 right now in the after hours.
That's not
Intuitive Surgical. No, so that's not really much for that stock.
Yeah, that's a slow one.
Yeah, it's usually a 20, 30-point mover, but
yeah, what's up with that?
$3, not much going on there.
Uncle Mike, anything else catching your eye? How was the BBI today? We haven't had a BBI update in a while.
Oh, just relaxed as ever.
Well,
so next week might be a little bit. Well, it's kind of good. I'm glad that I got a whole extra week now for Apple
you must
earnings.
love that Apple earnings have moved to the 30th, because that just makes your life so much easier.
Yeah, now the premiums don't seem to match up with an Apple for the 30th of But I'm glad that they're on the 30th. That helps me a lot.
I'm giving you some insight. My birdie network let me in on that one, so I'm giving you a heads up so you can trade accordingly before the market knows that the earnings have been adjusted.
Oh, wow.
And before our listeners panic, yes, I'm just playing with Uncle Mike because I have done this in the past and spooked him on the wrong date of Apple earnings, so I'm just playing with him a little bit. But, of course, Apple earnings on the 24th, as we expect. So, aside from that, of course, Ford having a bit of a rally today, Uncle Mike. You trading anything out there?
Still short the 11 calls for December for right now, and just waiting to make my move in terms of getting out of it. Probably sometime in the next week or two, I'll be making a move and getting more short-term with them.
Trading aggressively in Ford. Yeah, it hasn't been a whole heck of a lot. There were some surprise moves today, like good old EA Electronic Arts. I know Anjun is on the show, always going on about the video game sector, gapping up nearly 7% to the upside today on very little news. So I know a lot of people have been trading downside puts in EA pretty aggressively, and today a fairly decent move for them so they can take those off going into expiration without too much pain. But I think that's going to do it right now for the old trading block. And now we're going to dive right into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, and that funky spy-esque theme, espionage theme, I suppose you can call it. It means it's time for the old odd block, and we're going to be very commodity-driven in the odd block today, which is a change for us. We don't usually talk about commodity ETFs in the old odd block. A couple interesting ones catching our eye today, including an interesting and somewhat bizarre straddle swap going up here in USL. That is, of course, United States 12-month oil ETF. Closed today at $40.61. And what we saw in this name typically does about, sub 1,000 contracts a day, was about 20,000 contracts today. And all of that, except for a handful, was all in a massive straddle swap where essentially paper came in and it was a bit of a weird execution, so it was hard to ferret out exactly what they were doing on both, but it appears like they came in and sold out the July 40 straddle they had previously bought about 5,000 times on that one for about 65 cents. And of course, the OI on both of those strikes is about 5,000, so that's all closing paper right there. And then they turned around and rolled it out to August, where they traded the AUG 40 straddle for about, looks like $1.97 or so on that trade. Both of those on the AUG side were opening mid-market trades. You have a situation where the vol's unched mid-market. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what the person is up to, but still interesting stuff. Massive straddle rolls. Obviously somebody expecting here, if he was indeed buying it, expecting and rolling his long straddle position. Looks like he's expecting a big run in oil over the next month or so. Now, I know we typically talk about USO on this show, and we've maligned it quite a few times in the past. Haven't talked as much about USL. And Uncle Mike, you like watching the energy ones. You ever take a look at USL here?
Not really familiar with it. That's one that Typically, if I'm going to do something like that, I'd prefer to just simply be like in an XLE, just playing the equity portion of that, or just trade the futures themselves. But I've never done anything with USL.
Yeah, it's called 12-month oil. I'm not sure if that just stays to near-term futures contracts, but then these options contracts go out several years, so I'm not sure exactly what you're getting in that mix. I'll have to look into the futures mix. Sean or Sebastian, you guys play around with USL at all?
No. Generally speaking, if I see something like this, I'm probably going, this would be the type of thing where the market makers probably did this on the price, for edge, and then laid off all the risk in the futures options and walked away with some cash. And this guy didn't realize that he probably did a crappy trade. That'd be my bet. Just saying.
Yeah, I'd imagine if you're going to be trading any sort of numbers in USL, and of course there aren't many numbers going up in there aside from this trade, then you have to be active in the futures options as well. They just go hand in hand. It's like trading the SPX and not trading the ES. You have to trade both, and this is a similar scenario here with good old USL. An interesting one. We'll keep an eye on this a little longer, see if we can ferret out what this guy's been up to, if perhaps he's been rolling this for a while, or if this is a relatively new trade. But like I said, a relatively new ticker too that we don't really look at that much. So something to add to the conversation when we're always going on and on about the futures options or good old USO. And speaking of commodity ETFs, we also have, well, this is not a commodity ETF, but a name that trades actively in it. This is Anglo Gold Ashanti Limited, ticker symbol AU. I love that ticker. That's a great ticker. What was that?
Anglo Gold. So it's is this gold like drives a BMW and has a membership in a golf club
and very bad teeth.
Yeah, and bad teeth and oppresses Irish people.
It's essentially the Queen's gold holdings and naught else in this company.
Just making sure.
This is another one that does a ton of paper, actually a lot more than USL does, about 1,600 contracts a day, which comparatively is sizable. But today it was many times that, almost 10x, doing 15,000 contracts today. And the bulk of this was all in one direction. It was a lot of upside call grabs going on out here in good old AU. In particular, the AUG 33s and the AUG 36s were lighting up the tape. But that whole upside call strip was really fairly active here. We saw about 11,000 of these AUG 33s going up, mostly purchases for around 50 cents. So that's a ton of upside spec going on right there. We also saw activity all the way up to the 39 strike, but about 1,000 of the AUG 36s going up. The bulk of those also purchases as well for about a dime. So a lot of people coming in and really piling into some upside here in AU. And if you look back at the chart, AU has been trading substantially higher than this level for quite a while, and including as recently as mid-June when they were trading up as about 38 handle or so. So all this paper coming in today speculating that Anglo Gold, the Queen's gold holdings as it were, has some good upside ahead of it. So a lot of people piling into AU. This is one we're going to watch through August expiration and maybe come back to look at a bit as well and see if all these bulls were active. Now, Uncle Mike, I know you love the GLD. You play along in AU at all?
No, GLD serves my purposes. I don't like to discriminate against Irish people.
I think you just hate the Queen. That's what it is, sir. All right, and that's going to do it for the old odd block, and now we're going to dive right into the Express block.
The Express Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading. From advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, and this is, of course, the portion of the show where the boys at OX take the reins. And Sean, you've been doing it for a while now, so you're definitely falling into the regular camps. I don't need to hold your hand anymore through the Express block segment. So, sir, the reins are yours. The show is yours. Right. Do with it as you will, sir.
Sounds good. Again, sticking with the Google and Chipotle. That's where a lot of the action on the desk was today. The Google traders don't seem to be working out. I had a lot of aggressive traders into buying the 625, 630 July call spreads, paying about $1 to $1.10. With this thing starting to fall off in the after hours to 607, that may be a loser. Also, another one that's real close, I was getting a lot of interest in the 600, 610s for August. Now, again, of course, they're going to have an extra month for that one, but we're, again, trickling down from that 621 high in the after hours. However, my Chipotle traders are looking pretty good. I had a sizable order in the July 400, 405 call spreads for about 250. With Chipotle in the after hours right now, still declining about 377. That gentleman's looking pretty good. And then I had a couple sells. A large order, I would call a large order, came in. Same guy doing the 400, 405 actually sold the 365, 350 put spread, taking in 55 cents. Now, Chipotle is trickling down in the after hours, but as long as it holds up about $12 for him, that's a pretty nice trade for him.
That's someone who's been watching Chipotle's earnings for a while and just expected that downside, like Apple for a long time was essentially free money.
Yeah, and the best trade of all, out of all my traders today, that somebody sell a 440, 455 call spread for about 40 cents. I think he did it about 400 times, so that's looking pretty good for him with Chipotle declining here. So that's enough as far as the sizable paper coming through the desk today. Did want to point out a few things. I mean, tech across the board just seems to be continue lifting this market day by day. I mean, not just Google and Apple, but we had some great moves today out of eBay, IBM, Qualcomm, and Amazon, especially with that rumor with Amazon possibly doing same-day delivery starting next year.
You know, it's funny because I'm a Prime member of Amazon, have been for a while, and if you're in a major metro area like we are here in Chicago, I've been effectively getting same-day delivery for a long time with them already. Like, they already have so many local distribution sources that I get it 2 day for free, and it often shows up same day.
I'd wonder how they're going to do that in some rural area like out in Nebraska.
Yeah, if you're in central Iowa, I don't think you can expect the same level of service. But Amazon, yeah, we talk about them a lot, but they're definitely where a lot of the rumor activity is these days, between the potential new smartphone coming out, of course, the updated tablets coming out, now this local stuff, all the talk about sales tax, and maybe going to roll back the affiliate stuff, and a lot of rumor and spec going on Amazon, because Amazon reaping the whirlwind to the upside today, up about nearly 5% to 226 today. So Amazon just feeling a lot of love out there. And, of course, they have earnings coming up next week on the 26th. So, but sounds like, Sean, you guys have a lot of degenerate Chipotle traders on the OX desk these days.
Yeah, we do. And also, the casino's been getting beat up lately, but we had some nice moves in LVS and up 5% today, probably based off those win earnings, went up about 3.5%. So maybe the casinos may be taking a run back to the upside at about a 6-month decline.
The good old gaming sector could use a boost. You know, it's funny. I almost makes me sad to hear so many people diving into Chipotle, because for so many years that was my own little name and no one had ever heard of it, and I was just trading it actively all around the 50 handle to 100, and it was a great trading name, and now everyone's piling into OX, and it's kind of like your favorite local band when they go big. Suddenly you don't like them as much anymore. I guess I'm just being elitist with my Chipotle.
And lastly, in relation to the USL, maybe that trader may be a little bit too late to the game. Oil topping 92. The futures today for the 7th straight day in a row to the upside on oil. I don't know how much more we're going to go, but moving into those Augusts, I think we probably could see some kind of support level around 95.
You know, that's an interesting one. It's certainly worth keeping an eye on just for you on the desk, too, because like I said, we always talk about USO, but perhaps USL will start figuring into the equation more and more. And keep an eye out for any USL trades coming in, and let us know on future shows. See if anyone else, aside from this 5,000-lot straddle swap guy, is trading this thing, because looking at the numbers right now, he appears to be the only game in town from a USL perspective.
We figure only 35,000 stock traded, so we almost got just as much option trading on this thing as a stock.
Yeah, you're right. There you go. That goes back to the people always asking us about open interest and how important that is. And look at this name, and that'll give you some idea. So anything else lighten up the old tape there at OX today, Sean?
I mean, mainly, like I said, a lot of the guys are into the Google, Chipotles. Moving on, actually, for futures, I did have a lot of people interested in corn. I did notice, obviously, September corn well above 800, 813 range. December corn just missed it. We had a top of about 799 today, and then it pulled back. But with this constant heat and drought, we could be blowing well past 800 shortly in December as well.
All right, thank you for that, Sean. That's going to do it for the old Express block, and now we're going to dive right into the strategy block.
The strategy block.
All right, and welcome to the strategy block. This is usually the portion of the show where good old Uncle Mike comes on down from his mountain to dispense his wit and wisdom on the options market. But we're going to switch it up a little bit today, and we're actually going to let the greasy meatball have a shot at it. So brace yourselves, listeners, because good old Mark Sebastian is going to tell us how to find the right 80s reference for any scenario. So, Mr. Greasy Meatball, the floor is yours, sir.
I was personally dying laughing when you said you were a Prime member, and immediately I was like, an Optimus Prime member?
I knew your head went there as soon as I said it. I could just hear you chuckling across the line.
Yeah, well, I'm actually a Megatron member of Groupon. So.
Then I guess we are doomed. We are doomed to battle, sir.
Yeah, no, Groupon's going to lose, just like Megatron. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Walgreens today. Now, the news on Walgreens was that they reached a big deal with Express Scripts, and now they're going to be able to kind of get back in the swing of things. And it had been a major drag on them over a relatively long period of time. People have been waiting for this deal to get done since April, and it took almost 4 months. Wanted to talk about an interesting trade and a smart trader. So back right after June expiration in call it June 19th and 20th, all the way through the 4th, Walgreens really got slammed. And at one point on the 20th, it fell all the way down to 28.5. Now, you had two options at that point. You could have gone long the stock, or a smart play would have been to use options. And I wanted to point out a guy who won huge trading options really, really intelligently. On June 20th, a trader did with the stock right around 28.75. He traded a January 25.32 risk reversal. So he sold the Jan 25 put, and he bought the Jan 32 call. He collected 2 cents on that spread. So basically, even with it at 28.5, Walgreens would need to drop about 15% before this guy got into trouble. So he had a lot of protection on the downside, and the trade was going to let him participate on the upside while, if Walgreens just sat there. So if it just sat and sat and sat and sat, his money, he wasn't sitting on dead money because he had taken in a small credit. Well, lo and behold, today, Walgreens makes a huge move up, and his 2 cent credit that he put on June 20th is now worth, last I checked, it was worth $3.
About $3.30. Yeah.
75 cents. So he made $3.77 while being protected 15% to the downside and not having to worry about his money being tied up in dead cash. That is the quintessential use of options, smart use of options. This guy made, on a risk-reward basis, far more than someone who just bought the stock. He made a far better rate of return with less risk, and now the Express Scripts deal is done, and he's money in the bank. And I'm not saying that we're all gonna do 12,500 of those spreads like this guy, but when you're trading around events or ideas, I think that something might happen here. Rather than get short the stock, get long the stock, almost always, there is a smarter, safer, more effective way to trade using options. All right? The key is you have to plan, you have to get the timing right and the volatility right. Now, what is the final step that this guy needs to do in order to truly capitalize on his trade? He needs to close it, something he has not done yet, which makes me think Walgreens is going to keep rallying. But the key here is that if you understand options the way Mike or Mark or myself or the trade desk at Options Express does, you can really put yourself in a position to win. And that's really all you can do is put it out there and try and put yourself in a position where you can win and maybe not, and if you're wrong, maybe not lose. Something that's very difficult to do with just straight stock. And that is why everybody should have options as a major part of their portfolio.
This just illuminates why we go back time and again. And this is just one example. The good old risk reversal, a fantastic position if you set it up right. This guy gave himself essentially 7 months of upside on the stock for free, actually a small credit, and that is so preferable to anything you could do with the underlying or anything along those lines, because it's just like you said, it's a simple thing to set up. It doesn't require that much in the way of nuance, but it's a little bit of a more advanced than just doing a simple vertical. But yet he was able to set this thing up. He didn't know when his time horizon was. Gave himself 7 months for a paltry, actually a credit. That's just a fantastic way to set yourself up. And
and the smart thing is, it looks like he actually picked off the bottom too, because he did it on the day that Walgreens hit its low. So
that doesn't hurt.
All in all, guy did a great job.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on this one too. He said he did it 13,000 times.
Yep.
To see when he unloads this thing on the strikes, the 25.32 you said, correct?
Yep. Now the interesting thing is the market makers probably won on the trade too.
Well, yeah, if they were able to hedge it off, they did all right.
Yep, absolutely.
Another reason why options are great: everybody can win.
That's the key. And I say this all the time. If you think you have insider information, or you think you have an in, and you think a stock is going to go down, sell calls to the market makers. Don't buy puts, because a market maker will never report you if you sell deep calls. All right? Because he's getting to convert them into long puts. Likewise, if you think a stock's going to go up, sell deep in the money puts. A market maker will never turn you in, because everybody will win. Just a comment there.
Another one to grow on here.
How to trade options inside and not get in trouble.
There you go. No one will ever report you in options land. All right, before we get any deeper into trouble, we're going to close out the old strategy block. Thank you for that, Mr. Sebastian. All right, then. So that's going to do it for the old strategy block, and now we're going to dive right into Around the Block.
Around the Block.
All right, and welcome to Around the Block. This is, of course, where we look at and talk about what's coming up on our own personal screens for the next few sessions and going into the weekend. Before we do that, a quick update on some of those earnings we discussed at the top of the show. Goog coming back in after rallying pretty sizably. It was up 20 handles at the top of the show. Now it's up about 14 to 15 handles in the after hour. So coming off a little bit, but still up substantially. Of course, if you picked up that straddle, not exactly looking like it's going to be a home run for you. Let's look at Microsoft really quickly here, and Microsoft also about the same, up about 70 odd cents in the after hours, so that straddle's coming in about even. You still got a few cents on it if you traded it aggressively, but of course Microsoft, no surprise, still essentially a resounding meh on the day. And good old Chipotle, the stealth apple, I suppose, not too stealth anymore given how much size is is going up on OX with CMG. Chipotle down about 27 or so handles, 26, 27 handles in the after hours. So not exactly a banner day for the organic burrito chain. So those are some of the ones we were watching throughout the show. We'll keep an eye on them tomorrow to see how they open up. Perhaps another argument we can have on another show for another day, because we're running towards the end of this show, but about a good time to discuss the pros and cons of having some sort of retail after-hours order book in these things, where someone could conceivably close out some of these calls they have in this position. Uncle Mike, you were just saying at the top of the show, hey, you can't do anything in the after-hours, so you don't want to trade a lot of these things around earnings. What if you had a simple limit order book on, let's say, at the money and a few 5% around the money in like Apple around earnings? That might be something interesting to you.
I love it, because I mean, right now it's one of those ones I watch it anyway, and most of our clients don't have big enough positions in it to where we could just simply short against a long or something like that, or we're collared, so we couldn't do it anyway. So, there's ways with which you can play it by, like, let's say you had a bunch of calls, stock goes way up, then you can just sell the stock short and the aftermarket if you get filled. But I mean, that's the wild west right now. I'd much rather just be able to trade the options if at all possible. I'd love it.
Yeah, I mean, you can even limit it even more to just closing out existing open interest, just around at the money, and there's a lot of people who push back at this kind of thing, but I think something like that might be interesting to at least be able to let people close out positions and take some risk and perhaps some profits off the table in these kinds of scenarios. Of course, on the 30th, that'll work out very well for you, won't it, Uncle Mike?
On the 30th. Oh, yeah. I thought Apple earnings were on the 28th now.
Oh, that's right. It keeps moving around. The post-Jobs era, they can't nail down a date for their earnings. It's a crazy, crazy company.
Now, see, if Jobs is still around, he'd have the technology to hear you messing with his earnings reports, and he'd do something to mess with your signals in some way.
Did Apple move their earnings?
He's already bought into it. No, I'm just teasing good old Uncle Mike on making him worried that he doesn't know the date of Apple earnings.
Oh.
It's a long-standing joke he and I have that has spread onto the show. But Uncle Mike, since Apple is coming up, give our listeners a rundown of, I think when last we spoke, you had the old collar on. You still collar at the same levels? Have you rolled
still
the calls?
Collared. Yeah, still haven't made my move yet. Either tomorrow or Monday, I'll obviously make a move because we have earnings coming up on Tuesday. But for right now, we have the upside 640, so I'm just sitting tight for now, and then I'm hoping that if it has a big move to the upside, we're rolling up a bunch of contracts and preparing for even further moves up, because after all, Apple never goes down, does it?
I thought you might have had a high BBI today because there was that news that they discovered that massive wreck, World War II wreck full of many, many tons of silver. And there you go, crushing your silver positions. But alas, it was not to be. It was just a small blip in the silver bubble. But I thought it might give Uncle Mike a bit of a heartache. I almost sent you the link just to see what he would say.
Just a bit. Well, I don't know if I believe anything from you ever. You're probably just gonna. You should actually start the Option Onion. That should be your newspaper that you start.
Problem is, the only people we mess around with are you. So it's a very limited mockery irony system. But still, it's still pretty good. Anything else, Uncle Mike, not EU, but any GLD, SLV, anything else lighting up your tape going into the weekend?
Not going into the weekend, but I am really becoming more of a bull on SLV right now. It's just the last time that it ran up to 40 like it did, it was kind of puttering around for a while, and it's starting to look similar to how it did before then. So I am liking SLV right now, and gold might start getting back into that too.
I didn't know you were out. I thought you were just a diehard metals bull.
I'm out. I'm selling puts and doing put spreads on it right now at the 150 level.
I see.
He's not out. He's just left in.
Yeah, I'm not out. I'm just not in. Big difference.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sebastian, aside from scalping Google time spreads and loading up on sizable risk reversals in WAG, what else is on your horizon going into the weekend? We didn't really talk about VIX that much top of the show, so maybe let's do it here. VIX kind of selling off a bit today, not exactly unsurprising given today's activity. You notice anything interesting catch your eye in today's VIX trading?
I think it's going to 14. I do. The futures have been really holding up, and then at the end of the day, they started getting smoked. I have a lot of trouble imagining that VIX isn't going to really come in here over the next couple of days. It's threatening 14. We've got some stocks really hitting low vols. I was looking at Wells Fargo, and that's at a 2-year low. You've got financial vols at 2 years low. So even if XLF isn't performing great, the vols are all hitting super, super low levels. So everything I'm looking at is pointing toward VIX getting to 14. I'm probably going to, at that point, once we see the VIX cross 14, 14 and a quarter, I'm going to make a step in either SPX or in VIX itself to start probably putting on some sort of long premium. In fact, I would start dabbling in the financials now. Wells Fargo in particular, I thought looked really, really, really cheap. So there's some things I'm starting to step into, but for the most part, I am still a bear on the VIX futures.
Interesting. I don't see much of that heading south, at least not pre the 24th. Once all that Apple juice comes out of the market, if Apple kind of settles down on the 25th, then maybe I could see VIX heading to the south after that, but probably not before then, I would think.
Apple's not even that juicy right now. VXAPL, which is the SIBO's VIX methodology for Apple, is pretty much at it's pretty low ahead of an earnings.
Yeah, options options are not very juicy right now at all. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking of trading Apple earnings, I would not be doing it from the short side. It just doesn't look like that's going to be a smart play. I mean, the vol's just cheap. So, I think that there's some plays out there, but just not right now. There's not a lot of things there's not a lot of owning there's not a lot of shorts that make a lot of sense other than VIX itself and maybe some SPX. And there's starting to be some very, very yummy looking long premium.
Just admit it, Sebastian, you were the JP Morgan London whale. That was you, correct?
Yes, that was me.
Putting on all that $7 billion losing quote-unquote hedge.
We actually called it the Anglo whale.
Yes, holding all. You did it to hedge all of your Anglo Gold holdings.
Exactly.
All right, and Mr. Sean holding down the Options Express hot seat. What is on your radar going into the weekend and the coming week, sir?
Well, looking at this VIX here, it was just about this time last year, early August, we made a run up to about 45 and bounced back and forth from early August to early December between 30 and 40. Curious if history will repeat itself. It was a 4-month run. Early August all the way to about December 1st, we were bouncing between 30 and 40 for 4 months straight. Well, and then came December 1st.
Yeah, and the air came out of the air came out of the balloon.
It was quite the vol. I mean, those were those days when the market was up 400 or 500 one day, down 700 the next. For that good 3-week stretch was in that 4-month period. But it was it's only about 2-3 weeks away to when this started last year.
Yeah, that was, of course, leading into the debt ceiling debate, then the subsequent downgrade and all the other stuff that just got unleashed subsequent to that. So that was the beginning of all that tumult.
Our credit's gone. Our bonds have gotten really sold off since they downgraded us.
Yeah, I know. That was a banner move on their part. Well-timed S&P and Moody's.
Yeah, they look like idiots if you consider what happened to our debt.
I don't know if anything happening in our debt is very rational. It's kind of like Apple. It doesn't make any sense to me, at least from these perspectives. Yeah. Okay, that's going to do it for the old Around the Block segment. And unfortunately, that's also going to do it for this episode of the Option Block. So listeners, you have to hold your horses until next week to get some more Option Block goodness. But before we go, speaking of goodness, I want to give my cohorts here, my partners in crime here on the All-Star panel, a chance to let you, the listener, know what's coming up in their respective parts of the options universe. Starting off with you, Mr. Sebastian, what is coming up in the land of the pit, sir?
We're taking all comers for our gold course that continues to be good. I'll make let's do something fun here, okay? Now, the next 2 people that sign up for our gold course that mention Option Insider Radio.
Tell them they love Anglo Gold, AU.
Yeah, the next 2 people that sign up and sign up for using the word Anglo Gold, the course is a little under $2,000. We'll do it for, I don't know, let's say $1,500. So we'll take 20. We'll take more than 20.
Anglo Gold.
So we'll take 25% off the price.
There you
So
go,
if you
listeners.
use
A deal. If you too love your Anglo Gold, then call Mr. Sebastian now or visit optionpit.com and get in on the savings before they're gone. It's your Black Friday in July savings event.
It's Christmas in July.
Anything else coming up at the pit?
I'm going to be on Bloomberg on Monday and probably a couple other things next week.
Stay tuned to optionpit.com/events to hear more about that stuff. And by all means, check out the gold course, and you too can learn how to trade Anglo Gold. Speaking of Anglo Gold and all things Anglo, Uncle Mike Tusaw, what is coming up in the land of KYO or whatever it is you're calling yourselves these days?
A lot of things in the mix. Still not able to release anything because I don't know how we're going to release it as of yet. So we're set in our new home at this point, or we found our new home, and we are going through the moving process as we speak.
Have you been down to the new digs yet?
Have not.
Well, we're supposed to be doing a live show from there on the 30th. So I'm curious to check it out for myself and see how they look. But interesting stuff going on in the land of KYO / ?
Definitely.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Sean, what is coming up in the land of OX?
Well, the traders, we're getting ready for July expiration tomorrow. Should be an interesting one, especially with seeing if they pin Google near $600, where they usually like to do something like that. Always got Chipotle. Wonder if that makes a run back. And also out to any of our Options Express clients listening or potential clients. And if you're near Raleigh, North Carolina, we have a hands-on show showing you the power of the OX platform at the Renaissance Raleigh North Hills Hotel. I'm not really familiar with the area, but it's in Raleigh, North Carolina, off Main Street. So if anybody's got some time, it's an all-day session from 7:30 to 3 o'clock Central Time. If you got some time, go on down to the hotel again in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can also check out and register for that workshop at optionsexpress.com.
And that's a good point. You don't have to be an existing OX customer to go on down to those workshops. They are free and open to everybody. And if you go in there and you want to check out some more about the OX platform, by all means, tell them you heard about it on the option block. They'll be very excited that you did so. All right, and thank you for that, Sean. But of course, before we go, all of us here on the old All-Star panel want to thank all of you out there in the listening audience for downloading and streaming and subscribing to the option block and making it such a success. And we'll see you next week right here on the old option block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. The preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.